So because we know we're using the same overwrap, and that's perfectly good to do, but we need to go a little lower than we did with the stable bandage. She might want to start down the leg just a little bit more, as if you might be doing a back leg, because you're going to want all that extra space. That's good, Melissa. And you know what, I'm going to stop you there first for a second, because what we want to do for even more protection that you're going to regret not doing first is put the bell boot on. Because when you have the bell boot, you can sort of put the bandage a little bit over top of the bell boot, and then you really have full coverage. But if you tried to put the bell boot on after you do the shipping bandage, you're going to have all kinds of wrinkles at the bottom. All right, so the bell boot also has a good way to go on and a poor way to go on. First of all, you need to make sure the bell boot that you have on your horse fits your horse. And you want to have a little space, the way Melissa can put her finger in the back there, but do you see that it actually touches the ground in the back? That is important. Pull it up a little bit high, like a lot of times we see a bell boot on a horse out in the paddock or coming off the trailer. That bell boot is doing nothing but costing you money to buy. It's not doing anything to protect pulling a shoe or pulling off the bulb of your heel if your horse overreaches. So let it fall back down again. That bell boot fits him very well. It's not too tight, and it touches the back of the ground. So we know that if he overreaches or steps on himself, he is going to be protected. Okay,
now what do you think is the advantage or disadvantage of this type of bell boot with the Velcro closure as opposed to the kind you pull on?
Well, I'll tell you that the pull-on bell boots are probably the most protective because they don't come off very easily. And it's also the downside to those kind, because you can skin your knuckles and pull a fingernail off very easily when you're trying to pull them off. And some horses just don't have the tolerance to have you pulling the rubber bell boot over the bulb of the heel. And when I used to event, we used to put them on with a little Vaseline and all of that. And those are terrific if you really don't want them falling off. But for light turnout and hacking around, these are easy, they're durable, they do rip, they do tear the Velcro, and you probably have to replace them more often than the pull-ons, but they're a heck of a lot easier. I try to make Melissa's life easy, so we have Velcro.
Make it really easy with the shipping boots, and that's one of the reasons also that for me personally, for long distance shipping, I don't like to do this, especially coming from the north to the south, because a lot of times, because they're rubber, they sweat underneath there, and they can get irritation to their skin until you don't know it until you finally take the bell boot off. So for me, just all around for shipping, the boots for me are safer. But just be aware of that if you're doing a long distance trailer, and you're going where it's quite hot, that they're going to sweat underneath that rubber.
Mm-hmm. And you know, some of the benefits to using a shipping bandage rather than the boot, because I ship my horses in boots also, but I do have a couple of, in particular, legs that have old tendon injuries. And so when these older horses are trailering long distances, they do sometimes need that support. A horse that is healthy, that is good in the trailer, I will always choose a shipping boot over a shipping wrap. But I do have some older guys that really need that support, but that means every single time I check to get fuel or give them water, I am checking to make sure that those boots and bandages are on and on the way I put them on and not having slipped down.
Yeah, that's a good point about the horses that need a little bit of extra support.
So she's gone down lower than the stable bandage. You can see that the little white cuff is covering the bell boot, and it's wider than the bell boot. So if they step or kick themselves on the bandage, it's going to slide off down over the bell boot. And again, she ends up just perfectly at the top, and she's checking to make sure there's no wrinkles. And she keeps the same elasticity and the same tension on it all the way through around the Velcro.
And sometimes when you're taking the Velcro off of itself, you should hold each piece as you're pulling it. Otherwise, sometimes when you're pulling it around, it pulls your last wrap around even tighter than everything else.
Excellent point.
At the same
really good.
And what about, oftentimes I see people who have wraps that the Velcro's getting tired, and so they end up putting tape around the top. What's your feeling about that?
I don't mind tape as long as, again, it is exactly the same tension as your under wrap and your bandage. I have a mare actually who will try to take hers off. So duct taping even, I mean, it's one strip around or good masking tape prevents her from getting at the Velcro. So there's a use for that as long as it's exactly the same tension as everything else.
Yeah, and you have to be aware that the tendency is for people to put that tape on tighter.
That's right.
Than the rest of the bandage.
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's just have a look at the simplicity of the boots now, the shipping boots, and how they go on, because I actually often see those, and these, the quality ones that you have, Jane, are fairly simple to discern between front and back because the back ones are so long. But there's a whole bunch of different kinds of boots out there, and some of them aren't as stiff or as tall as yours. I love this kind that you have, and there's a bunch of different makes that are stiff and tall. They don't fold over and they don't shrink down. You see, they almost stand up. Oh, they do, on their own. But some of the ones that are made are just fleecy, and those fall down and actually give no protection. So I'd rather put nothing on my horse than something that's going to fall down and get in their way and even maybe cause them more harm. So you can see she starts with the middle, goes to the bottom, and then ends up at the top. And that's because the middle is the widest, and now she's going to readjust to make sure that they're all the same. And you can see that those straps are also going from front to back and on the outside. If you put a boot on and that last strap is coming from back to front, it's on the wrong leg. Okay? So to point that out to us one more time. The strap, you can undo it. Yep. It's coming from the front of the horse to the back of the horse. So if you put a boot on and that elastic is going from the back to the front, you have it on the wrong leg.
Now you
Excellent.
mentioned, while she's taking that off, you mentioned that occasionally that you ship without anything. What would you advise people to do shoe-wise if they were going to ship without anything, either boots or bandages?
I think if they're not shod, then you have less chance of injury. But you can't pull your horse's shoes off to go to the horse show. So young horses have sometimes a better grip of the trailer without shoes on. And if I'm going to be flying a horse from Europe, I will have the horse shoes pulled off because number one, they'll do less damage if they do step on themselves, and their own natural hoof gives them more traction than anything else. But if you're traveling to a horse show, only you and you alone can know what your horse likes, and that is going to have to come out of trial and error. My own mare is not a good traveler. She kicks, she paws, she's bored. We have finally found a system after many trips that helps her be comfortable. She likes to wear the boots like you have behind, and she likes to be wrapped in front. And that seems to work for her. If I put wraps on behind, she kicks them down. I can't afford not to put anything on it because she will inevitably cut herself on something. So we have figured out over many trips and observing how she comes out of the trailer and listening to how she is in the trailer, her happy place is with boots behind and bandages in front. So it's a little bit individual on everybody's horse.
Yeah, and that's what we said at the beginning, that part of whether you choose, whatever you choose for your horse, whether it's for work or shipping, has to do with your personal preference, but more importantly, it's what your particular horse needs, and they're all individuals, right, Jessie? Yes, you're a very special individual.
And the back boot, you can see, is high, like Jane said before, and it goes over the point of the hock. And again, she's not going to start with the very top one. She's going to do the middle. Justin thinks he's going to get to go to a horse show now, so he might start wiggling around. And you can see that she's got it a little high. In order, at the end, she's going to slide it down. Again, always pushing it in the direction of the hair. You would never want to put it on too low and then pull it back up. You always put it on a little high and then slide down. Excellent. Thank you, Melissa. That looks, watch out that, and you know that's a really perfect example, because many times when you put a boot on a horse, it feels like a little splint to them, and when they go to walk away out of the cross ties, they walk bow-legged or they pick their leg up or even kick. So just be aware of where you're standing when you go to walk your horses away with their boots on for the first time. Anything else to add, Jane?
Boy, I think that was terrific, and I think we covered a lot of ground there, and hopefully now people can make an educated decision on what's the best thing to use on their horse, both for work and for shipping, and what's the correct way to put it on.